Hey guys, Neo RC Racer here, bringing you a build review of my Ultima RB7 stock spec. Just put this buggy together a couple days ago and thought I'd get this done before I went out on the track and get it all clapped out. Overall the build went pretty well, no missing parts, couldn't find any mistakes in the manual, so no complaints there. Let's start off by talking about the ease of building this. That is a bit of a slippery slope because it's all kind of relative as to how easy or difficult it is to put one of these together. It'll probably vary according to your experience with building RC models. I've got a few kit builds under my belt as far as associated TLR and some Tamiya kits, so I can compare this one to the ones I've done before. I would say ease of build is right around like maybe a 3.5 out of 5. The reason I docked a 1.5 is Kyosho instructions kind of force you to jump between bags. So for example, when I built more recently a TLR kit, you go to bag 1 or bag A and you use it all up except for maybe 1 or 2 extra screws or parts, kind of the odd part, and then you move on to the next bag, and it just kind of progresses that way. There's no backtracking. Kyosho is not like that. You get bag 5, all of a sudden they want you to go back to bag 3. You go to bag 4, they want you to jump back to bag 2 and 1, and sometimes there's a combination of bags in one particular step. And I know, that I've seen that in other kits, but the more recent, the more modern kits kind of shy away from that. So it's a little bit of a time waster when you have to go back and dig for that stuff. But if you're good at organizing, then it's probably not as big of a deal. Second thing is, sure, a lot of parts on parts trees that you got to cut off. I mean, that's another thing that the newer kits have kind of gone away from. Most of the parts are, separate, ready to go. No trimming required. With this particular model, you got to make sure you have a good sprue cutter. Or a hobby knife and a lot of patience. And again, just another time waster. Just costs you time and a little bit of effort as far as the workflow and the kit. And then just little things like, for example, the chassis foams, the stuff that goes under the battery on those in those cutouts in the chassis. Every other kit that I've built, as far as I can remember, those foams they're pre-cut. You just peel them off the backing and you stick them on those little cutouts in the chassis and you're done. Not really my favorite thing to do, but this kind of took it to another level. They give you one big piece of foam. You got to trim it in half lengthwise. Then you got to trim one half to fit into the 2 longer slots, and then the other one you got to split into 3 parts to fit into the shorter slots. I mean, it's just not a big deal at the end of the day. It just takes a little bit of measuring and cutting, but it's just unnecessary. How much money is it really saving Kyosho to do that instead of having them pre-cut, ready to go? And it just kind of took away from the whole build experience. And lastly, just the amount of space. So if you look at the electronics I have here, I'll get that in focus here. Sorry about that. There we go. You can see that there's not a whole lot of space. I mean, I'm not using a very big speed control. That is a Trackstar 120 amp Gen 2. And that receiver is off of another one of my reviews here that I might be posting up at the same time, which is the FlySky Noble MV4. Those receivers are tiny. Okay, so that's actually one of the smallest receivers out there. And everything is, just packed to the gills if you look at it right now. So honestly, every kit I've built, other kit I've seen or built recently, gives you a little bit more room. I mean, not a whole hell of a lot, but just a little bit more, like half an inch here and there makes a big difference. I mean, I had to, do a little bit of planning there, whereas with other kits, I can pretty much just kind of slap it on and there's still space left over to do whatever I want to do. This one, real estate is at a premium. So if you build this, make sure that you kind of mock up your electronics to make sure that they'll actually fit, or maybe save some room by going to a low profile servo, which I did not, but I just had this one laying around. But you go to a low profile servo, that'll free up probably a 1/4 inch right there. or so, and that'll give you a lot more breathing room. I mean, you know, ESC got a capacitor here, which almost everybody's running on their stock class ESCs, and pretty much that takes up 70% of your electronics tray there. So it's just something to keep in mind. And another reason I kind of docked off points a little bit is just makes it a little bit trickier to get it built and get all the electronics fitted in there. So it's not all bad. On a positive side, I really didn't have any problems with the manual. I've read some or watched some reviews where people were like, well, this is just a pain in the butt to build. It takes a much longer time. I didn't really think it took a huge additional amount of time. It does take more time than, say, definitely like a B6, B6.2, or associated kits in general are easy to put together. You can kind of sit at the track and before practice and actually build one. I've seen people do it. I haven't personally done it, but I've seen it done. It's definitely doable. Just because there's just less complexity, and there's nothing like having to trim parts off of trees as much, and so it's just a quick build. In this case, it's not. You have to kind of dedicate some time to kind of get over those little things that I talked about. So other than that, I didn't really have too big of a problem with it. It just took a little bit longer than I would with other kits. So overall ease of build is, fair. Fair to good is how I would rate it.
Okay, well, let's move on to fit and finish parts quality. And I think in this regard, Kyosho has always done pretty well. In particular, these Japanese kits and also the European kits, such as X-Ray, have always kind of distinguished themselves as far as good quality of parts, good fit and finish. Except I think recently the other companies like TLR and Associated have made pretty big inroads into that. I think the quality is right up there now. Maybe not quite at that level, but definitely getting to be pretty negligible. In any case, in terms of the RB7, I think the fit and finish and parts quality is really good. I would give it like at least a 4, if not a 4.5 out of 5. Uh, Main thing being the quality of the plastics. And what I mean by that is when you put the screws in, uh, you you get to the bottom and it actually stops. There's a definite wall, like a very well defined wall, almost like a metal to metal contact, and that's a really comforting feeling. It's very satisfying because you know that you've joined the pieces correctly. You know how much tension you're putting on the screw, exactly how much tension you're putting on the screw to join the pieces, and it just speaks to the quality of the plastic that they're using, that it grips the threads of the screw like that. And you see that throughout 99% of the kit. Now there are still certain plastics on the kit. Case in point, right here on the wing mount right here, this plastic is still your good old soft, circa 10 years, maybe 15 years ago plastics, where you turn the screw in a little too much or past the point where it's bottomed out and it just keeps turning. You're you tighten it and then oh hey I think I can stop now because the 2 point it's not going to go any tighter, and there's no way to know that because the screw just keeps on turning. There's no wall, so to speak. um, and I'm not sure why that was necessary to do that here. I mean, I the only excuse I could make for them is that maybe it makes the plastic a little more flexible, so when the buggy does land on the wing, this isn't going to crack. But I mean, honestly, if you're going to put good quality plastic on the shock towers and on the arms, which are going to take impact just as much, I don't see why this would necessitate a different, softer, lesser grade of plastic. My guess is just cost cutting or coming out of a parts bin where they didn't never felt the need to upgrade it. But like I said, 99% of the plastics on here, the important stuff, the arms, the suspension bits, the bulkheads, the towers, all that it seems to be really good um, quality plastics. So that is nice. The shocks Kyosho has a great reputation for their velvet coated shocks. They build really easily and they are very smooth. Their springs as well are supposed to be some of the best. I know people that are sponsored by other companies that still use Kyosho springs. They don't make a big deal out of it, obviously, but they do use them. Kind of a dirty little secret or secret that everybody knows. But the shocks are a little bit different. These, they are bottom fill shocks. So I'm so used to the top fill kind, where you before you put the cap on, uh, you screw on your bottom shock cap, and then you fill it up with oil, and then you put the cap on, and you push the piston up, and you bleed out this little bleeder hole right here, which these Kyosho shocks do have. Um, but these shocks, you actually turn the shock upside down, and you screw the top top cap on first, and then you fill the oil up to about here. Screw in the bottom cartridge portion, and then you just do the same thing. You just push the piston in, and it bleeds out. There's a little kind of cutout right here on the cap, and the oil bleeds out of there, and then you tighten it all down. So it's kind of reverse. I mean, it's not like it made a huge difference, but built pretty easily. It was pretty straightforward. And I'm not even really sure why Kyosho includes these bleeder holes and bleeder screws. I mean, in the manual, they didn't even speak to them. They just said put the screw in, leave it, don't touch it. I would imagine it's, you could still fill them the traditional way. That's why they're there. Or maybe for quick trackside oil changes or to bleed some air out. I don't know. I mean, you would still have to take the shock apart more or less. So I guess it's just to maybe appease the or conform more with the traditional setup. But yeah, they are bottom fill. Um, they built pretty well. The ball diff, as all the other modern kits, went together pretty straightforward and broken nicely. I heard Kyosho ball diffs are supposedly last longer. We'll see if the hype for that is true once I start using the kit, start using the buggy. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, overall, finish is really good. Um, yeah, so the probably the only knocks I can say about the parts is really just the plastic washers that they use. Ball stud washers. Uh, these spacers for the suspension arms are plastic. They come off the plastic parts trees, and that's just too bad. It just kind of detracts from the experience of the kit, overall experience of the that the user gets from the kit. You're spending a certain amount of money, you expect a certain type of quality, and when you have to kind of put these ganky little plastic washers on pieces where it's supposed to take a lot of compressive force, or it's part of the suspension where you don't want a lot of slop, uh, it's just not a good feeling. I mean, let's be honest here. They work well. They're not going to the aluminum spacers and washers are not going to work. Thousand times better. But it's just little things like that, little touches that kind of affect the user's, the hobbyist's perception of the kit in general. So overall, my impressions as far as the build are good. I would say I am happy with the parts quality and the fit and finish, as I mentioned. The process of building it was not bad. I was a little uh, I was optimistically cautious after having read some of the reviews in terms of the build instructions and the amount of stuff on parts trees. But at the end of the day, that really didn't slow me down too much. It's not like I spent 20-30% more time putting this kit together. It did take more time than some of your other brands kits. I'm not going to lie about that. Just the fact that you got to trim all these parts off the trees kind of added to the whole thing, and then the whole mixing the bags and having to go back to different bags, just kind of added time, and you add a few minutes here and there, it just kind of adds up. But other than that, pretty satisfied with the build. Would I recommend the kit at this point? You know, Back when Kyosho had these for, I believe it was 369 or 399 in that price range. I don't know. That's kind of a that wouldn't be my first recommendation at that price point. But right now, as I understand it, these things are available for $219 everywhere, and that's how much I got mine for. Full disclosure, and at that price, it is a tremendous value. I mean, it is probably the best value right now in 110 scale two-wheel drive race buggy. Um, I know TLR had their during carpet versions of 2250 on sale for around that price, except the dirt version is no longer available, as far as I can tell. So if you're a Kyosho curious, or if you just have an affinity for the Japanese brands, or you're already a Kyosho enthusiast, I mean, this is my number one recommendation as far as getting into a race buggy right now. But that's all I have for the build review. Stay tuned for the actual drive review coming up, and hopefully I'll get my Fly Sky NB4 Noble NB4 review posted up soon as well. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.